Hmm. We had covered verse number 13 last time. This one and the next one, they are basically supposed to be read together. Uh, if you see here, basically just the adjectives are there. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitrah karuna eva cha nirmamo nirahankarah samadukha sukha kshami. Hmm. And which translates as he who has no egoism, no I-ness and my-ness, who has friendship and pity for all beings, and hate for no living thing, who has a tranquil equality to pleasure and pain, and is forgiving. He is dear to me. One second. One second, sorry. Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. And this one, Santushtah Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dridhanishchayah Mayyarpitamano Buddhir Yomad Bhaktah Same Priyah. So, what is the use of all these qualities also if they are not the ones which are dear to the divine, desirable to the divine that way. So that's completed here. The thought basically, he who has a desireless content, Santushtah, the steadfast control of self and the firm, unshakable will and resolution of the yogin, and a love and devotion which gives up the whole mind and reason to me. He is dear to me. So, like this, I'll just go back to the previous verse once because, so Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitrah karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankarah samadukha sukha kshami. Um, this is the 12th chapter of the Gita. Verses wise, I do not know how many of the 700 have been covered till this point, but you could say approximately two-thirds of the Gita is done by this point in terms of number of verses, right? So some of these ideas, they have come earlier in the Gita as well, like the word adveshta. ठीक है, I'm just जो भी thoughts इनमें आ रहे हैं complete कर रहे हैं वैसे. The main purpose of these is to give ourselves a clear idea as to how to bring the psychic being forward, and basically what are the qualities we need to hold in ourselves and grow in ourselves, by which that eternal portion of the eternal which we are essentially can come forward and become the master of our life, right? So, but still, just for completeness, adveshta, for this, the nirvairaha sarvabhuteshu. In the last verse of the 11th chapter, he who does not have any vaira towards any being, right? So, adveshta, vai. What is the word used here for adveshta? Hate for no living thing, right? So, obviously, I mean, we have been speaking of oneness. If there is nobody else but you, then who are you going to hate, right? But that is obviously the ultimate peak. It takes time before that oneness can become perfectly settled in our being. It can get settled in us in a mental way. One could say, largely speaking, the Indian culture as a whole, the sense of love and oneness is all pervasive. And probably, this is the only society in which it is so pervasive. It is really there. One has to little just thoda sa surface ke piche dekhna and it is there. So it is there as a background. That is true. But to build it permanently and to function from that, I mean, that takes yoga either through one life, fast evolution, or through multiple lives, etc. But yeah, so adveshta sarvabhutanam maitraha karuna evacha. Again, this idea of mitrata. So two words come in the Gita earlier. First is the in the last verse of the 5th chapter, suhridam sarvabhutanam. There, Sri Krishna is speaking of himself. Here, he is speaking of the bhakta. But obviously, in our consciousness, we are supposed to grow into Krishna. We are supposed to embody that Krishna consciousness, that divine consciousness within ourselves, right? So, usme Sohridam Sarvabhutanam, the friend of all creatures. This is the phrase that is there. पूरा वर्स इस वक्त मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है, but that's the 29th verse of the 5th chapter, right? Yeah. Maitraha Karuna Evacha. Karuna word probably coming for the first time in the Gita here. Not sure उसके पहले आया है. हाँ, भोक्तारम यज्ञ तपसाम सर्वलोक महेश्वरम सुहृदम सर्वभूतानाम ज्ञात्वा माम शांतिम रिच्छति. So, when once you know that I am the friend of all creatures, then you attain to peace, because you know that there is a friend who is there irrespective of anything. But obviously वो divine के context में है, let that be clear also. And here it is in the context that we have to have that friendliness towards everybody, right? Again, most of these qualities which are mentioned in these 8 verses, they are part of our culture, they are part of our psyche, knowingly, unknowingly. The Gita is part of our psyche, but then why are we studying it? Because when we study it, I would say then and only then can we actually understand ourselves कि हम जो जैसे गठित हैं हम वैसे गठित क्यों हैं. And obviously for our higher evolution, it is a great shastra which guides us forward, right? Karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha. This comes as early as the second chapter, third last verse of the second chapter, है ना? उसमें वो बोलते हैं कि निर्ममो निरहंकारः सशांतिम अधिगच्छति. He who is free from the sense of I and mine, and he who is free from the sense of doership. That is what ahankara literally means. Only such a person can attain to peace. I think verse number 2.70 of the second chapter, right? Samadukha sukha kshami. Again, these ideas, samadukha sukha, they are there from the second chapter onwards. Samata ke jo verses hain usme all those are there. Pleasure and pain में, दुख सुख में, लाभ हानि में, जया जय जया जया और अजय में, etc etc. So kshami word I think comes for the first time here. So like that. So this was my starting thoughts when I just read this verse today, right? Anybody has anything to say here before we move to the next one? Anybody? How many people are there? 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So we move to the next one. Yeah. संतुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढ़ निश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिर यो मद्भक्तः समे प्रियः. Yeah. 1 second, we'll go word by word. Santushtah, he who has a desireless content. So, tush dhatu is there. उससे तोषा बनता है. Sam is the Sanskrit prefix here, which means complete. So santushta means totally satisfied. Sometimes the word is there simply as tushti or tushyati, verbal root, right? So santushta literally means completely satisfied. Sam or tush ki jab sandhi hoti hai, so the makara of that becomes na, right? So it becomes instead of samtushta, which sounds a little forced and unnatural, the free flowing Sanskrit as it is. So it becomes santushta. Santushtah satatam yogi yatatma dridha nishchayah. He who has a desireless content. Yeah. The steadfast control of self, yatatma. And the firm, unshakable will and resolution of the yogin. This is very important. कि संकल्प आया है योग अभ्यास करने का या to move on the path of God, then the vikalpa of coming out of it should not come to our mind. It does come because obviously one feels the challenges of the path, but the the firm, unshakable will and resolution of the yogin. When we hear the word yogi, what is the picture that comes to our mind? Somebody who is like, generally what is the picture that comes to our mind? Somebody who has sat in an asana with the decision that I will get up from here only when the siddhi is attained, not before that. Right? Santushtah satatam yogi yatatma dridha nishchayah. Satatam means always. यहाँ पे always translate नहीं किया है. Yeah. Santushtah satatam means he is always that having that sense of complete satisfaction within. And how does that come? That comes by the touch of the psychic consciousness, the divine consciousness within us. Because only that is having that paripurti, that completeness within itself. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So, though the Gita defines us as eternal portions of the eternal, Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutaha Sanatanaha, but that is इव भी आता है उसमें अविभक्तम च भूतेषु विभक्तम इव च स्थितम. It is as if divided or as if apportioned, but in actuality, we are all having that infinite power, that all that completeness, that fullness, that infinity within us. And here, matlab, if we approach it in a logical way, so think about it. Jo infinite hai, I'm translating the word Purnam as infinite. Several times I have quoted that, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, right? So truth, knowledge, infinity, Brahman. That is what divine is. Can infinity be broken up? It cannot. The very conception of infinity is that it cannot be broken up. कैसे आप उसको infinity को तोड़ोगे? वो आपके पकड़ में ही नहीं आएगा. You will break it only if you are able to catch hold of it, right? But infinite cannot be caught hold of, literally. So it is when that consciousness of infinity, that completeness, which comes from the psychic contact through bhakti, through dhyana, karma yoga, etc., it is when that is felt, then we come out of the trap of unending desires, and then we start feeling that santosh. Right? मैंने उसमें वो बोला था कि difficulty I mentioned, there यथात्मा और जो संकल्प विकल्प दृढ़ निश्चय में the fixed resolution of the yogin. So couple of thoughts there. One, when Sri Rama's qualities are told in the beginning of the Valmiki Ramayana, one of the qualities which is told is dृढ़ निश्चय. Okay, once he has taken a sankalpa, he will not go away from it. The best example of that is when Bharat comes to, comes there and tries to take him back. He said, no, I have decided and I'm not going to go back. It was very easy for him to go back. That's an example. So that is necessary. And वही जो mother का sentence है, not to make it appear too difficult. The path is long. Self-surrender makes it short. The way is difficult. Perfect trust makes it easy. ये कभी नहीं भूलना चाहिए. Anybody who is following any path of yoga for that matter, but especially Sri Aurobindo's yoga, the path is long. Self-surrender makes it short. The way is difficult. Perfect trust makes it easy. इसी perfect trust को गीता में श्रद्धा बोलते हैं. Those verses we had covered in the session before last, right? One second. He who has a desireless content, the steadfast control of self, and the firm, unshakable will and resolution of the yogin, and a love and devotion which gives up the whole mind and reason to me, he is dear to me. Mai arpita मनोबुद्धि यो मद भक्त समे प्रिय. मई मतलब इन मी, मुझ में, सप्तमी एक वचन. अर्पित मनोबुद्धिर यो मद भक्त समे प्रिय. Such a bhakta of mine is dear to me. What is the English translation here? A love and devotion which gives up the whole mind and reason to me. No part of our being, basically, forget about mind and reason only, even vital, even physical. That is what makes Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga integral. This idea that nothing in us should remain in disconnect with that divine consciousness. Last time I had said that initially yoga begins like this, that yes, this is the thing which will give purpose to my life. Or it can begin like this, in the Indian culture, there are 4 Purusharthas. Moksha is the ultimate Purushartha. Whatever may it may begin, I must do this. Gradually, I must do only this. And gradually, finally, it just totally possesses you. You cannot think of anything else except yoga, except the divine, except how to make the union perfect, except how to serve him better. One just cannot think of anything else. This is जिसको psychic transformation बोलते हैं. These are the signs of it. All the time you are having that loving thoughts towards the divine. All your thoughts are coming from him or going towards him. और कुछ है ही नहीं like that. So यहीं पे जो बोला हुआ है, a love and devotion which gives up the whole mind and reason to me. Whole mind and reason to me. Sometimes we make a division between science and spirituality. कोई जरूरत नहीं है. It is when the mind is totally absorbed in the divine that the true science also springs up from within. I mean, the Sanskrit word is vijnana, which means knowledge in details. Jnana means essential knowledge. Vijnana means detailed knowledge. So it is basically a Western problem, the bifurcation of science and spirituality. It is not an Indian problem. All our great scientists, they were rishis and they were firmly grounded in the spiritual consciousness. Right? So, one second. Santushtah satatam yogi yatatma dridhanishchayah mayyarpitamano buddhir yo madbhaktah same priyah. These are my thoughts on this verse. Any of the group members, any thoughts, any comments?
Anmol,
Yes, please.
very powerful when he says whole mind and reason. Whole mind and reason, you are completely submitting to the divine.
Yes.
Now, when you bring it into the practical life and whatever we've studied over the last few months,
Yes.
when the psychic being completely identifies with the psychic entity,
Yes.
because the psychic entity is living only in the reality of the divine. There were 5 characteristics of the psychic being that you had studied, which we read. Pure devotion. That means not even a second are you out of the state of the divinity.
Yes.
So what you have to realize is that anything, any event, any experience, it's all a divine blessing, good, bad, ugly. As we said,
One has
you
to
climb
be,
the 3.
it can be rephrased like this. One has to be able to see the divine behind all circumstances, good or apparently bad. There is no such
Correct.
thing as bad because the ultimate good is behind everything. Only
Correct.
for good, what is that line from Savitri? Only for good, the मैं word भूल रहा हूँ उसके लिए, the supreme will can wake, और supreme की जगह कोई और adjective होगा. Only for good, the secret will can work. So
Correct.
this line should be there at the background, and correct. Yes.
Correct. So any experience that as an individual I go through, this communication is that every incident of an experience, second by second, that you are living, it's when it goes against you, by which the ego consciousness feels, yaar mujhe ye pasand nahi hai. That's where the mind is coming in. So a complete submission of the mind. And he's also saying your reasoning also, that isme koi left nahi hai, right nahi hai, best ho raha hai.
Exactly.
Whatever is happening, you have to
Exactly.
submit yourself to that purity,
Very well
which
said.
is then coming back to the psychic entity, because only the psychic entity is living in that complete devotion every second.
Complete trust in the divine. First of all, I mean, there is such a thing as the divine. कई लोग तो मतलब वो नास्तिकता आ जाती है. That is the great danger of it कि I mean, जो base है, you just get cut off from that. So there is such, of course, the experience comes, but more often than usual, the faith is necessary for the experience to come. And now, with Sri Aurobindo and Mother's whole lifetime work, their tapasya, their yoga sadhana, they're bringing down the supramental. A little effort of sadhana brings multifold results. So अगर कोई एक महीना भी लेट्स से बैठ करके छक करके नाम जप करेगा या कोई मंत्र साधना या कुछ करेगा, he will definitely get some kind of glimpse of the divine. And the proof will be there in his consciousness कि हाँ सच में भगवान नाम की चीज है. It's not just for saying like that.
And Anmol, the last 3 words of the translation is dear to me.
Yes.
When you listened, मतलब
Yes.
कृष्ण भगवान
Yes.
इंसान को बोल रहे हैं कि तुम मुझे प्रिय हो. मतलब पूरी जिंदगी हम सोच रहे हैं यार कैसे. He is saying I'm dear to you, and this
exactly. He's telling the secret. How to become dear to the divine. He's telling the secret.
Correct. And why is this?
Imagine the whole world, let's say, as a big company, how to become dear to the chairman. So he's telling the secret. Naturally, if you become dear to him, you will progress in that company. I mean, it's just an example.
I find this so beautiful. If you could just, because this dear to me, I remember you had started when we were doing essays of the Gita, the Mahavakya, where he says that if you are able to be dear to me, then everything I look after, right? I mean, there was the summary of that was that every aspect of your well-being is then looked after by me. You can trust the fact that everything is then, you're in safe hands, right?
Yeah.
The Mahavakya which is the 18th chapter it came in.
Yeah.
Again, where he says because he ends by saying this is the simplest. This magical line that if you put your mind, if you give
So
this
the
to me in pure
Mahavakya,
submission.
yeah, so the Mahavakya is basically generally taken as one verse, sometimes as two. Sri Aurobindo kind of groups it as 2-3 verses, but Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Mashucha. This is 18.66, right? Abandoning all dharmas, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Take refuge in me alone. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. I will deliver you from all sins. Ma shucha. Do not grieve.
Even
So
65, Anmol Bhai,
this is
because there also
66.
it's dear.
Yes,
No, in 65,
exactly.
dear to me.
Yes.
Mad
Manmana bhava
man
madbhakto
bhakto.
madhyaji mam namaskuru
मामे
मामे
वैश्यसि
वैश्यसि सत्यम ते प्रतिजाने प्रियोसी में. नहीं, क्योंकि उन्होंने
प्रियोसी में.
महावाक्य बोला ना.
हाँ.
Oftentimes it's just the 66th verse which is quoted as the Mahavakya. The reason for
Yeah.
that is because there the Gita एक वो चरम पे पहुंच जाती है, you know, that sort of total abandonment of yourself to the divine, that complete surrender. And as Sri Aurobindo says, you know, sequence में अगर हम ले योगास को गीता के और Sri Aurobindo के, कि the Gita's yoga culminates in surrender and my yoga begins from surrender. So in that sense, but as I myself said, clarified, कि sometimes the two verses are taken as Mahavakya. If you go back to the initial, I think, third or fourth chapter of the essays on the Gita, there Shri Aurobindo जब महावाक्य को flowing form में लिखते हैं, it's not just these two. वो कहते हैं कि गीता अपना महावाक्य खुद ही बताती है, उसको ढूंढने की जरूरत नहीं है. सर्वगोह्यतमं भूयः करके संस्कृत है, and then he kind of combines even more than two verses. But yeah, generally it is taken as 1865 or 1866, depends on the person. बट अगर सिंगल वर्स में अगर लोग लेते हैं तो इट इज टेकन एज 1860. दिस इज जस्ट फॉर क्लैरिटी, कंसेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी की गीता का महावाक्य क्या है. बट यस, सो टू कम बैक, मन बना भव मद भक्तो, सो बिकम माई माइंडेड, मद भक्तो माई डिवोटी, मद याजी अ सैक्रिफाइसर अन टू मी, माम नमस्कुरु बो डाउन टू मी. मन मना भव मद भक्तो मद्याजी माम नमस्कुरु, मामे वैश्यसि Mam eva eshyasi. To me alone you are going to attain. Mame vaishyasi satyam te. I am telling you the truth. Pratijane. I promise you. Pratijane means promise. Satyam te pratijane priyosime. I promise this to you because priyosime, because you are dear to me. Because you are dear to me. वहां पे वो already Arjuna has already become dear to him. So
Yeah, because हाँ,
here he
क्योंकि
is telling the methods by which we can become dear. You know,
हाँ,
like
नहीं,
that.
actually, Anmol Bhai, even we read in our fourth chapter, the core of the teaching, where Sri Aurobindo says, you begin with karma, remove the sense of doership as the first step. Next, karma has to be joined with
First
jnana.
step is not the removal of doership. Just to be clear, मतलब you are right. That's like the main step. But first step उसमें अगर आप चलें, that is 2.47. Okay, कर्मण्यवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. Nobody can begin with the first step कि मेरा
No,
doership
correct.
tendency खत्म हो जाए, right?
I mean, Tyagat Shanti Anantaram, that fruit of, yeah, that is
Tyagat
the first
Shanti
step.
Anantaram comes in this chapter.
In this chapter, but yeah, ultimately it is.
But धवल भाई, first step अगर कर्म योगा का बोला जाए, it should be clear in mind. See, because there are people of all levels and stages here on the group itself also.
Correct.
You know, so
desireless of fruit,
one
right?
minute, wait. कर्मण्यवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. ठीक है?
Correct.
You have right to the action but not to the fruits thereof. You begin with this. ठीक है?
Okay.
You begin with this. Then in 3.27 the Gita exceeds this, where it says अहंकार विमूढ़ात्मा कर्ता हमिति मन्यते, और उसके पहले प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः, कि you're not doing anything. But you cannot begin with the idea that I am not doing anything at all. Doing that will actually make you fall into tamas.
Correct.
और इसीलिए गीता उसके सेकंड पार्ट में कर्मण्यवादरस्ते के क्लियरली सेज माते संगः अस्तु अकर्मणि. कुछ भी करके तुम्हारा अकर्म के अंदर तुम्हारा अटैचमेंट ना हो जाए. मे यू नॉट फॉल इनटू इनएक्शन एंड तमस. द फुल वर्स, कर्मण्यवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भूः माते संगोस्त्व कर्मणि. आपका जो कर्म, जो आपका जो हेतु है, द मोटिव, द हेतु शुड नॉट बी द कर्म फल. मां कर्म फल हेतुर्भूः माते संगः अस्तु अकर्मणि. and may not your attachment be to inaction. It begins like it. And then in 3.27 it says, जो आपने बोला beautifully, कि प्रकृतेः क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः. It is Prakriti through the gunas which is doing everything.
Correct.
Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Deluded by egoism, man thinks that he is the doer. ठीक है? This is just for now. और उसके बाद फिर और आगे जाकर के in the 8th or 9th chapter it gives the final stage wherein it says that you feel and know that everything is being done by me. क्योंकि प्रकृति भी when it uses the word prakriti without using the qualifier para, so you're not sure कि ये कौन सी प्रकृति की बात कर रहे हैं. And obviously when you say gunas, it's the lower prakriti, right? तो तब आप केवल ये करें कि मैं केवल नेचर की मैकेनिज्म का एक हेल्पलेस कॉग हूं, right? But then no, not just nature. You have to graduate from the nature to the Shakti, from the Prakriti, from the Apara Prakriti to the Para Prakriti. And you feel that Shakti dwelling within your heart. And it is that Shakti which is motivating all your actions, and all your actions are coming from there. That is the final step wherein आपके actions पूरी तरह उस शक्ति के साथ unite हो गए. For those who are familiar, the 5th chapter of the Mother, it is most beautifully explained. Unbelievable. एक बार हमने ग्रुप में मदर का ऑडियो सुना था, अभी हम नहीं सुनेंगे आज, we are doing bhakti yoga, but that is what it is, right?
And then you join it finally by bhakti, jnana then bhakti.
Yes,
right?
yes. So first karma, then jnana, then bhakti. That was like the...
In case of Arjuna, if I take the Gita sequence, which Sri Aurobindo has also talked about, he gets the divine darshan the before this chapter. So is it that logically he ends up in bhakti, or
yes, he has no option. वो तो नमोस्तुते, वो तो नमः पुरस्तात् अथ पृष्ठतस्ते नमोस्तुते सर्वतः एव सर्व. He is totally flat on the ground.
साक्षात्कार होने के बाद his Shraddha is no longer working. He is more than Shraddha. He is like working on the knowledge.
Exactly. That is why he is being told like this कि अब तू और मेरा प्रिय कैसे बनेगा. You could say, I mean,
this dear to me, this which has come here, has it come in any verse of the Gita before? We are in the 12th chapter now. Is this dear to me in the Gita in any other verse before this verse where it's now being...
I don't think so actually. As far as my memory serves me, it is not there. One second. Just 11th का जो last verse है, निर्वैरः सर्वभूतेषु यः समामेति पांडव, comes like this. One second, I'm just checking the text. Iska beginning I'm losing right now. Mat karma krin mat parmo. Nahin, it's not there. As far as I remember, it's not there. होता तो इतनी देर में आ जाता, it would have sprung up from within. I don't think it's there. I think it's the first time that it comes here.
Correct. I mean, just to listen to the Lord, the oneness telling you that, my God, I'm now telling you what you need to do to become dear to me.
Exactly.
I mean, this is so powerful.
Very powerful.
To become dear to me. मतलब भगवान बोल रहे हैं यार.
भगवान बोल रहे हैं. Exactly. And mind you, मतलब again, I have said these things earlier. In the Gita, it does not write the books के अंदर नहीं लिखा था Shri Krishna uvacha. No, it's always Shri Bhagavan uvacha. Again, I'm just reminding for those who may not have gotten this fixed in their mind yet, okay, there is a difference in the life of Krishna normally and the Krishna who is there in the Gita. Param hi brahma kathitam yoga yuktena tanmaya. ये बाद में अनुगीता करके एक आता है महाभारत में, इसमें कृष्णा clarifies, the Gita was spoken by me in a state of union with the Param Brahman through yoga. Param hi brahma kathitam yoga yuktena tanmaya. Sri Aurobindo says, the Gita says Krishna was spoken in a state of supernormal consciousness, which he lost immediately afterwards. So the Gita is like a spike in the graph of even Krishna himself. Krishna surpassed that normally overmental consciousness which he was expressing or manifesting. In the Gita, he shoots straight to the Parabrahman. And that is why there is nothing higher than the Sri Bhagavan of the Gita. Clearly it comes in verse number 7.7. Mattaha parataram nanyat. Mattaha means than me. Okay? Para means supreme. Tara means comparative. So
That
Tara
is
hota
why-
hai one second. Tara means comparative. Tama means superlative. Okay? So mattah parataram, supremer than me. Mattah parataram na anyat kinchidasti. Than me, there is, because it is the highest, it is the Para Brahman which is somehow inspiring the writer of the Gita to write like this. Is that clear? So that's why Sri Bhagavan, इट इज द सुप्रीम, मतलब उसके बियॉन्ड आप कुछ इमेजिन ही नहीं कर सकते. इट इज दैट सुप्रीम एंटिटी which is mother herself. I mean, to one of the disciples, वो कह रहा था कि मैं second time ऐसे on the Gita पढ़ रहा हूँ, she said, oh, it's a gold mine. And that mother is saying herself at the age of like पता नहीं कितना, almost close to 80, through after, मतलब unbelievable, कोई imagine भी नहीं कर सकता मदर और श्री अरबिंदो के मैनिफेस्टेशन के थ्रू, उनके पर्सनालिटी के थ्रू क्या स्पिरिचुअल डेवलपमेंट हुआ था. एंड शी इज सेइंग दिस, इट्स अ गोल्ड माइन, शी सेज, फॉर एसेस ऑन द गीता. राइट. हाँ धवल भाई, यू वर सेइंग समथिंग.
No, what I was saying, you just said no, this was done in the Parabrahman consciousness.
Yeah.
That is why afterwards,
In a
later,
state of union with the
yeah,
Parabrahman through yoga.
that is why afterwards, when Arjuna asks him again to
That
reside, he
that is
says,
what comes in the beginning of the
because he
Anugita.
falls back to his overmind consciousness or divisive
Whatever
consciousness.
fallback वगैरह, we are not qualified to speak of it.
No, not in that sense, but
Yeah.
probably ऐसा
But
the
the
प्रतीत हो
point
रहा
here
है.
is basically what Yogesh
हाँ,
bhai said, कि जो entity यहाँ बोल रही है ना, there is nothing higher than that.
oh,
It
true,
is the
true.
Supreme himself who is saying this, and that's why Sri Aurobindo has given so much importance to the Gita. I mean, almost 50% of Sri Aurobindo's yoga cover हो जाता है if you are able to follow the essays on the Gita. Right? More than that, actually. So, and he himself practiced it. The mother practiced the yoga of the Gita. And in the first chapter, he says that for the synthesis of the future, this synthesis of the Gita is of utmost importance and it needs to be studied very carefully. In the Indian consciousness, अभी भक्ति वगैरह की बात हो रही है, भगवान भगवान हम बोलते रहते हैं, but in order to understand what that भगवान truly is, it is mandatory to read essays on the Gita. उसके बिना आपको समझ में ही नहीं आएगा.
नहीं, मैं ये यहाँ पर बताना चाह रहा था, ये जो लाइन है ना, a love and devotion which gives up the whole mind and reason to me, वो that we have read in 4th chapter. Here this is how exactly it is explained कि jnana is joined by bhakti, because when love and devotion means bhakti gives up the whole mind and reason to me. That is what
Correct.
I was trying to
Exactly.
bring into
And
picture.
उसके पहले till
यहाँ
this point,
culmination join हो
right,
गया.
exactly. By this point, the mind and reason has been already brought up to a level of paripakvata, brought up to a level of maturity
Correct,
through the
correct.
fire of jnana yoga. Jnana vijnana नाम से 7th chapter है गीता का. So the jnana in him has already been stabilized to a great extent. Then he's been given this bhakti yoga knowledge.
Yeah.
Before that, one is not ready. So just to मतलब जो summarize करने के लिए, first karma, then jnana, then bhakti. This is the sequence which Sri Aurobindo gives. This is the best way to go about yoga, he says. Right?
Anmol, just this word reason here.
Yes.
So when we did the psychic entity, we understood that you completely submit your mind. Here he's saying that the reasoning, matlab, yes, ये ऐसा क्यों है वैसा, मतलब you have to go beyond reason. Reason also has to be put at his lotus feet.
Absolutely.
So you are completely beyond.
जो मैंने ग्रुप में डाला था ना, rejection of the mind's ideas, opinions, preferences, habits, constructions, so that the true knowledge may find free room in a silent mind. It's
Right.
so powerful. And if you listen to that in mother's voice, actually वो silence आपके अंदर आने लगे.
Beautiful.
That
Thanks.
हाँ, वहां पे वो rejection की बात कर रहे हैं. Here he is speaking sort of surrender, but obviously, without that, the surrender won't happen. Anybody else? Any comments, questions before we move to the next verse? Anybody? No? Okay. So, यस्मान् नो द्विजते लोको लोकान् नो द्विजते चयः हर्षामर्ष भयोद्वेगैर् मुक्तो यः सच मे प्रियः. He by whom the world is not afflicted or troubled, who also is not afflicted or troubled by the world, who is freed from the troubled, agitated lower nature and from its waves of joy and fear and anxiety and resentment. He is dear to me. अगर ब्रेक डाउन करें संस्कृत का, जस्ट फॉर सेक ऑफ कंप्लीटनेस, यस्मात् न उद्विजते, उद्विग्न,
उद्विग्न, हाँ।
दुःखेषु अनुद्विग्न मनाः, सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः, वीतराग भयक्रोधः, स्थितधीर मुनिरुच्यते।
2
ब्यूटिफुल
point.
वर्स इन द सेकंड चैप्टर।
Yeah.
तो वहां पे वो उद्विग्न रूप में आता है, हियर इट इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ उद्विजते, या यस्मात्, जिससे, न उद्विजते लोको, लोको को यहाँ पे ट्रांसलेट किया है वर्ल्ड, दैट्स लाइक, कभी कभार पीपल्स भी ट्रांसलेट करते हैं,
उसमें हो जाएगा ना, यस्मात इज उसमें से,
फ्रॉम
इस,
होम,
फ्रॉम होम, हाँ उसमें,
फ्रॉम होम, बाय होम, फ्रॉम
बाय
होम,
होम, फ्रॉम होम, हाँ।
यस्मात् न उद्विजते लोको, he by whom the world is not afflicted or troubled, to not be to not be a source of trouble to others, basically, to not be a troublemaker, that mischievous element which is there in humanity, to not indulge it. Like that. Yasmat na udvijate loko, lokat na udvijate chayah, who also is not afflicted or troubled by the world. You do not trouble it, and that does not trouble you. हर्ष अमर्ष भय उद्वेगैहि, मुक्तो, यहाँ 4 वर्ड्स हैं, हर्ष अमर्ष भय एंड द्वेग, भय एंड उद्वेग, सॉरी, मुक्तो यह स च मे प्रियः, he who is freed from the troubled agitated lower nature and from its waves of joy, harsha, fear, bhaya, harsha amarsh bhayo, udvega, udvega would be, I guess, anxiety here, amarsha may be resentment. I can just check the dictionary here, there is a, इसमें अगर एक एक वर्ड का दिया होगा
विज से आता है ना, आई थिंक, उद्वेग।
विच से तो नहीं आना, विच तो मीन्स टू नो,
नो, दैट इज विद इज टू नो, विज इज
विजनान, विज, आई एक्चुअली डोंट नो, मेरे को रूट में, हाँ, दैट इज विद इज टू नो, विच रूट में आई एम नॉट फेमिलियर विद द रूट, मैं जानता नहीं हूँ उसके बारे में। Who is freed from the troubled agitated lower nature and from its waves of joy and fear and anxiety and resentment. He is dear to me. Udvega would be anxiety. Resentment Udvega ko suit nahi karta hai, to my mind at least. So, and I'm not sure whether this is exact.
Google says the Sanskrit root which means to tremble, shake, fear, or to be agitated or
Correct. So anxiety,
distressed.
correct.
Yeah, anxiety. So
Please
frequent
share this. Please share. या तो मैं काम करूंगा, I'll share from ashtadhyayi.com. वहां बेस्ट है,
हाँ
मतलब
ठीक
पूरा
है,
आपको
ठीक है,
उसके सारे
ठीक है।
धातु रूप मिल जाते हैं. You please share this Google search result also. After the session, I'll share that.
Sure, sure.
Right. But coming back to this verse, यस्मान नो द्विजते लोको, लोकान नो द्विजते चयः, हर्षामर्ष भयो द्वेगैर, मुक्तो यः सच मे प्रियः. He by whom the world is not afflicted or troubled, he also, who also is not afflicted or troubled by the world. Who is freed from the troubled, agitated lower nature.
Yeah, so it's a force. It's a force of आवेग और वगैरह वहां से ही आता है ना ये.
Yeah, correct. आवेग की जगह यहाँ पे उद्वेग है.
उद्वेग है, हाँ.
Ud and are both prefixes.
So basically, Anmol bhai, this is again relating back to the second chapter, where Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, the force of.
That is in the 3rd chapter.
Sorry, 3rd chapter. But what I'm trying to say is it's actually the force, impulsion to action in some sense, but this is different in the sense that
यहाँ
fear,
पे
anxiety.
here he is not talking about the impulsion to action.
हाँ,
Here he is talking about freedom from these 4 things. मतलब
हाँ,
freedom from subjection to them. It's not that you should not experience harsha. Fine. But you should not get carried away by it. That way, an eternal silence is the basis of an eternal activity. So that perfect inner silence, that perfect inner quietude, one should never get uprooted from that. One should never get cut off from that. That is what.
So in practical terms, this would mean that when you are in flow, you feel the joy of the work.
Yes.
That without that bubbly feeling.
Yes. And even if that bubbly feeling is there, you do not get carried away by it. On the crest of that high emotion, you don't get swept away.
Correct.
And this is basically, actually, truly speaking, just a piecemeal treatment of this chapter, because when we will read the essays on the Gita chapter, the Way and the Bhakta, total satisfaction will come only then. I should be very honest in saying this. So we are doing this right now just to sort of, summarize and complete, in a sense, our ideas about psychic being and bhakti and all those things. So, but इसमें वो real मजा नहीं आएगा. Real मजा आएगा when we read that chapter. So if I am allowed, may I move to the next verse, or if anybody has anything?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Anmol, just one point here. See, it's telling you positively a state in which if you achieve that state, that is when he says, my child, you are dear to me. Yes. Here again he's repeating. Again he ends by saying,
throughout this chapter it comes again and again.
Right.
The Priya word comes again and again.
So it makes us to try to be an individual who can exhibit this so that he can, we can be dear to him. We always get swept away. I mean, if I look at my day-to-day, my 2 hours back, 4 hours back, he's telling you a state where if you stabilize and you exhibit this, so the challenge is, an Anmol, when he tells you that you should be here, you again come back to the thought, so where should you anchor yourself? Because otherwise, when you come up on that crest of joy and exhilaration, you get stuck there and you want to replicate that. That's human tendency. Yes. He's saying even that is not acceptable. So it's not a negative trait. And yet he's saying that if you are getting swept into that space again, that is not where you need to be. You should not be in a space where
you've lost because you've lost that perfect inner anchor. That is why.
Right. So there is that inner anchor which you second by second have to focus and stabilize in, because only when you stabilize, then you will not be able to get pulled into these other, because you have to have some anchor, right?
Exactly.
Till you don't put yourself. So he's saying ऐसा नहीं होना, पर कैसे तो होना है, तभी तो ये जगहों में आप नहीं जाओगे. So anchor, you beautifully said that till you don't anchor yourself in the psychic entity, you will always get pulled out into these, right?
Exactly.
Right. Thanks.
Anyone else? Should I move to the next verse? Okay.
Well, I have a small point.
Yes, sir.
This Udvignata, Udveg, what he is referring, or the shloka is referring.
Yes, sir.
In Hindi, it is written Vishad and something.
Vishad is depression.
No, I know. Chinta, Vishad, Udvignata. Does it, this is just a question, right? Does it include anguish against me?
Does it include
anguish?
Anguish against?
Not against externalities.
Anguish is pida. In a sense, you could say harsha, marsha, bhayo, dvegair. I mean, udveg वैसे यहाँ पे उस sense में है to get carried away actually. आप उसमें बह गए. That is what it means. कि if the sorrow is coming, then you get so depressed by it, and if the sukha is coming, then you get so मतलब inflated by it कि आप उसमें फूले नहीं समा रहे हैं. I think that is what it means here.
Okay.
एंग्विश के लिए यहाँ पे तो वर्ड इसमें नहीं है. हर्ष, अमर्ष, भय, उद्वेग. अमर्ष इज रिजेंटमेंट. रिजेंटमेंट मतलब वही कंप्लेनिंग होना कि मेरे साथ ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है, व्हाई इज इट लाइक दिस, रिजेंटिंग. not accepting, not being able to see the divine wisdom working behind, like that. And Pura, who is freed from the troubled, agitated lower nature. Okay. Next. This is also standalone. Yeah. Anapekshaha Shuchir Daksha. Ideally, these should be sung. Gayam Gita says Shankaracharya. But I mean, Sarita is not there. Dhaval Bhai can sing, but फिर वो थोड़ा delay भी होता है, and like that. Anyway, Anapekshaha Shuchir Daksha Udasino Gatavyatha Sarvarambha Parityagi Yomad Bhaktaha Same Priyaha. He who desires nothing is pure. He who desires nothing, anapeksha, is pure. Shuchihi. Skillful in all actions. Daksha. Indifferent to whatever comes. Udasin. Udasina is broken up as ud plus asina. उद मतलब ऊपर, उत है एक्चुअली संस्कृत में संधि में द बन गया है, तो seated above, literally उदासीन, that's what it means. तो indifferent to whatever comes, not pained or afflicted by any result or happening. गत व्यथः, कोई भी जो व्यथा है वो गत, he has gone beyond that. I think that's what it means. Who has given up all initiative of action. Sarvarambha Parityagi. This word we have used several times in our, these series. Okay. Who has given up all initiative of action. He, my devotee, is dear to me. For the third straight verse continuously, he is dear to me. Yomad Bhaktaha Same Priya.
So this is what we were discussing today, no, Anmol bhai? Inaction, inaction, वही वाला हुआ ये.
But this needs to be reflected upon very seriously. Otherwise, one can fall into tamas under the guise of bhakti yoga.
हाँ, क्योंकि मैं कुछ नहीं करूंगा, वो वाला
सर्वारंभ परित्यागी, मैंने सारे आरंभ छोड़ दिए हैं. आई एम जस्ट फॉलोइंग वन वर्स ऑफ द गीता. एंड उसके पहले के जो सारे थे वो क्या? यू आर नॉट सपोज टू स्टार्ट रीडिंग द गीता फ्रॉम द 12th चैप्टर, डियर सर. यू आर सपोज टू स्टार्ट रीडिंग इट फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग.
सही बोल रहे.
सारा कर्म योगा का टीचिंग, ज्ञान योगा का टीचिंग आपने स्वाहा कर दिया.
नहीं, that is why bhakti yoga comes last, no?
That's
it is
what,
to be joined. So
that's
while
what.
continuing
And
karma and while continuing
again,
jnana.
for those जिनको अंदर ये आइडिया में reinforce करना चाहिए. So the sequence, कर्म योगा, ज्ञान योगा, भक्ति योगा, exact same sequence में are the 4 sections of yoga in Sri Aurobindo's main book on yoga, which is the synthesis of yoga. So the yoga of works, the yoga of knowledge, the yoga of devotion, and then to complete it all and perfect it, the yoga of self-perfection, in which he talks about the perfection of the nature. So ukram hai usme.
And in 4th chapter, Sri Aurobindo clarifies very clearly, like, he says, you should not leave karma yoga while doing bhakti yoga.
Obviously,
this has to
none of
be
it should be
joined.
left, but this is why it should be.
Karma continues till the end.
Yes, yes. So, since we are doing this, anapekshaha shuchir daksha. Anapeksha, he who desires nothing. अपेक्षा वर्ड है यहाँ पे, तो जिसके अंदर अपेक्षा नहीं है. He who desires nothing. Why he desires nothing? Because he is trying to unite his will, or his will is already united with the divine. The egoistic consciousness of the human being, the ignorant consciousness, it does not know what truly should happen. That is why. He who desires nothing.
So that means by the time you reach the 12th chapter in living, your operating system has been replaced from ego to
By
divine.
the time you read the 12th chapter, ideally speaking, you should have had the Vishwarupa Darshan.
nahi, meaning what I mean to say is, if you live the Gita, you would have your ego operating system would have been replaced by divine operating system.
Divine operating system. Correct. He who desires nothing, anapekshaha, shuchihi, pure. Mother defines purity as the absence of desire. Desire is the impurity. Repeatedly it comes in mother's works. गीता में भी वहां पे उसको sin बोला गया है 3rd chapter में. विध्येनम या वैरिणम, और उसके पहले भी वो 3 एग्जाम्पल्स जो दिए, स्मोक का और उसका, दैट इज द इम्प्योरिटी. ही हु डिजायर्स नथिंग is pure, anapekshah, shuchir daksha. Daksha, skillful in all actions. So a bhakta of the divine will not be a nincompoop. He will be a skillful person in all actions. जो भी करेगा, there will be that dakshata in it. You know, yogastha kuru karmani और वो सब, yogastha kurmani, not, sorry, that's not the shloka. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. So yoga is dexterity in work. This comes as early as the 2nd chapter. I think 2.48.
Daksha and dexterity are so close.
Exactly. Again, beautiful. The etymological connection between Sanskrit and English. ये तो throughout दिखाई
Ambidextrous
देता है.
means you are using both hands, but this is dexterity of skills.
Yes, correct. Ambi means both, correct. Anapekshah, shuchir, daksha. अच्छा, since I mentioned that word purity and all, वो words मैंने नहीं बोला, वही ना back and forth because we are not reading in sequence. So धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निः यथा दर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भः तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. Very powerful verse comes towards the end of the 3rd chapter. Ki how the action of desire covers up the spontaneous, natural, and divine action of the soul and self. Dhume navriyate vahnihi. Just as the fire is covered by smoke. Dhume navriyate vahnihi yatha darsho malena cha. वहां तो word ही mala hai. And the mirror is covered by dust. Very powerful imagery in the Gita. धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निः यथा दर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भः. And just as the embryo in the uterus is covered by that membrane. I still haven't understood why they have given that example here, or how they were. Obviously, they knew it. They had a very high development of science in that period. So, yatholbenavrito garbah tatha tenedam avritam. Like this, yatha tatha. Like this, the self is covered over by this enemy of progress called desire. Anapekshah shuchihi. He who desires nothing and he who is pure. It is desire basically which is the synonym for impurity, which constitutes impurity from the spiritual point of view.
Anmol bhai, even in 18.48, there is the reference to the same metaphor.
Several times, I mean, just as we are seeing here. Which metaphor?
The dhume, smoke metaphor. As all actions are.
Let me see.
All actions are, not devoid of, the 3 gunas.
Sahajam karma kaunteya sarvarambha hi doshena dhumenagririvavritah.
That is the one. Yes.
No, I told it out.
Sahajam karma. Yeah.
Sahajam karma sarvarambha hi doshena. All actions are tainted by. वो इसलिए है because if you stop acting or you don't act simply because you are thinking that कुछ भी करूंगा उसके अंदर कोई ना कोई दोष तो होगा ही, तो वो उस सेंस में है कि अगर आप आग जलाओगे तो धुआं तो निकलेगा ही, इसी तरह कोई भी काम करोगे तो उसके अंदर कोई ना कोई दोष तो होगा ही. There it is in that sense.
But
there it is not in the and obviously most actions because they're out of desire, na. So it is again desire which constitutes that dhuma.
Correct. I was about to say the root,
Exactly.
whether it is sattva gun also,
Exactly.
there is a desire, no?
Exactly. नहीं, thank you for that. अच्छा हुआ वो उस वर्ड का रेफरेंस जो कौन था आ गया. Very nice. Right. So anapekshah shuchir daksha udasino, indifferent to whatever comes. I met somebody once here, non-Indian, मतलब barely knowing some Sanskrit. That lady was telling me, एक बार मेरे meditation में just बार-बार एक word मुझे आए जाए, and she didn't even know the meaning. Udasina. So she was non-Indian, so Udasina. She was pronouncing it like this. मैंने कहा, अरे बाप रे, words can come up like this, huh? I can never forget that.
Some purva sanskara must be there.
Obviously. Udasina. She didn't even know what it means. वो किसी ऋषि ने या उसने पकड़ लिया उसकी चेतना को एंड वो बजा रहा था उसके अंदर। एनीवे, अनपेक्षः शुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो, ही हु इज सीटेड अबव। हाँ, वो ऊपर उठ गया इन सब चीजों से, जिसको बोलते हैं ना कि ये तो इन सब चीजों से ऊपर उठ चुके हैं। तो उदासीन, गतव्यथः, हर तरह की व्यथा से वो वो जाता रहा है उससे। नॉट पेन्ड और अफ्लिक्टेड बाय एनी रिजल्ट और हैपनिंग, गतव्यथः।
Moving beyond. Gata means moving beyond, no?
हाँ, gone past
Gone.
that. So
Moving,
gone
हाँ.
past any vyatha.
Because ga means to move.
Yeah, gum means to, हाँ, gum means to move. Correct. Go वहीं से आता है। English का even word ना, go, geo, go, that comes from
Correct,
there.
correct, correct.
Correct. So not pained or afflicted vyatha, not pained or afflicted by any result or happening. कुछ भी हो रहा है, he is having that total contentment कि whatever is happening because of the will of my Lord. Only then that, otherwise it's impossible to live in this state. If that perfect trust, that perfect love is not there.
This is very tough to with
नहीं, but by
as you
and
grow
by,
old. No,
perfect
no,
trust
as you
makes
grow.
it easy.
हाँ, नहीं, नहीं, as you grow old and when pains lay a siege on your body.
अनपेक्षः शुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारंभ परित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः समे प्रियः। ये सर्वारंभ परित्यागी, इट कम्स एट 2 अदर प्लेसेस, वो मैंने ग्रुप में पहले डाले थे। राइट, सो important to reflect slightly on this. Sarvarambha parityagi, you do not initiate any action. An image of this, for example, अभी कुछ दिन पहले हनुमान जयंती थी, कि हनुमान is sitting in deep meditation and he's just sitting in deep meditation, and when the impulse comes कि ये करना है काम, he goes and does what is the work needed and comes again and sits in that samadhi अवस्था। Example, for example, just take relate करने के लिए, both are वायु का this thing. So Bhima, pride of his this thing कि मैं कितना बल है। So imagine Hanuman somewhere is just meditating. I'm imagining, I'm not saying I've read this in a shastra. ध्यान में बैठे हैं and the impulse comes, थोड़ा उसको जाके उसकी बुद्धि ठीक कर दो, and Hanuman goes there and spreads his tail, and the most powerful man of that age is not even able to budge his tail from there. Forget about moving it. And I mean, this is just take example, but basically, that state in which you are sitting in union, waiting upon the will of the divine, waiting for him to tell you what to do, because you have reached that kind of कि यार मेरे करने से मैंने अपना दिमाग लगा लिया, सब कुछ कर लिया, the things are not perfect, I try and do, but वो नहीं होता है। So either by this process or whatever process bhakti के द्वारा you come to the conclusion, I must wait on that universal rhythm, that universal wisdom, that divine consciousness, and as that makes me act, so will I act. Yatha niyuktosmi tatha karumi. I will not act.
Anmol, one thought that really strikes after what
Yes,
Dhaval
please.
also mentioned just
Yes,
now,
please. Yes,
that
please.
there is such clarity. It's so beautifully explained. The books have been there with millions of millions of people reading, but we don't experience such people in real life. And obviously, we first look at ourselves. I can speak. I'm so driven by desire and to go after an action. I'm reading and I'm trying to internalize what we are saying. But unfortunately, you don't meet. I mean, to even get a fraction of what we are reading is not an experience in a country where you say we are naturally inclined towards spirituality.
See, number one.
Where are
Number
these
one.
people, yeah?
Number one.
This is all
Nahin.
conversation, but where is the experience?
Yes, very good question. So only like can know like. The more this consciousness grows within you, the more will the vision be developed to be able to see such things now. जब खुद के अंदर वो चेतना नहीं है, खुद के अंदर वो विजन नहीं है, our level is what it is, ठीक है, individually whatever level we are at. So whatever is our level, only to that extent will we be able to recognize, right? जो तुम सा हो वो तुम्हें जाने. Very, very commonsensical. So instead of this, the effort should be to improve our own level of consciousness. और जब वो बढ़ेगा और जैसे जैसे वो बढ़ेगा, automatic, of course, I mean, there must be people, and number one, a yogi does not advertise himself. जो इस अवस्था में हो रहा होगा वो उसका ढोल नहीं पीटेगा. He'll be doing his work very quietly, but in a state of union with the divine will. So,
Right.
the manifestation of a new world is not announced by beat of drum. Mother said this as the New Year message for 1956. I mean, and the new world was born in that year. So like that. But more important than that, it is in proportion to our own development of consciousness that we will be able to see such qualities in other people. It's
True.
common sense.
Agreed.
One thing, can I share one thing
Please,
to
please, please,
योगेश
please,
भाई?
please, please.
योगेश भाई, मैंने जितना विटनेस किया, आप बोल रहे हो ना मिलते नहीं हैं, you will find those people who work very quietly
Exactly.
in your workplace only, who are very quiet, no?
Yes.
You just feel their vibrations. No, they are sensible. वो आप पहचान जाओगे कि नहीं, ये he is operating from a higher level. This is what I can say, and I've seen many people like this. My uncle, my father is also like that. I'm not. I have to learn a lot from him, but he will work very quietly. But there is a certain poise. I can't describe that poise. That vibration is very different. Very hard to put.
Basically, it comes to this कि what is called the development of the inner vision. जो third eye है ना, तीसरा आंख, it's a reality. So through the process of yoga, it opens, that inner vision opens, and then we can see. But it's not that I'm not saying that such people are not there. They are there. उन्हीं की वजह से दुनिया चल रही है.
Their presence, in their presence, no, your anxiety, your fear will automatically calm
But
down.
it's also true what Yogesh Bhai is saying कि this is not an ordinary state. इस तरह की स्टेट ट्रूली होना, सर्वारंभ परित्यागी, एकदम ही इज जस्ट डूइंग. मदर वाज लाइक दिस. एजेंडा में आप पढ़ें, as you will, oh Lord, as you will, totally, constantly, years and years, मतलब continuously in that. Unbelievable.
No, I was just discussing the external symptoms.
Yes.
So when you start feeling that, no, in somebody's presence, वो पता चलता है your
dedication.
your आवेग, your जो अंदर का जो वृत्तिज है ना, they start to align automatically. Just as if we are sitting near the samadhi, the presence of that person in your house makes a difference.
Exactly.
Though they may not speak anything.
Exactly.
I mean, this is what I have witnessed.
So basically, what Dhaval Bhai is saying is that, if you happen to be in the proximity of such a person, their vibrations, because of their tapasya, sincerity, sadhana, etc., having reached this level, just their aura, without even saying much, that will start having its effect on you, and you will start feeling some of these things which are mentioned here. Just to rephrase what Dhaval Bhai is saying.
And additionally, if you are in anxiety state or fear state, no, all these vibrations का क्षमा हो जाएगा एकदम अपने
You will
आप.
quiet down.
हाँ, वो it reaches that level.
So it's 1 hour 9:05. मतलब, should we pause here and then finish the next 4 verses in the next class?
Yeah, let's pause.
Yes, Arora ji.
इस श्लोक में पहली लाइन का जो वर्ड है अनपेक्ष, दूसरी लाइन का सर्वारंभ परित्यागी.
Yes, sir.
तुम्ही both are highly interested.
आपकी आवाज क्लियर नहीं आ रही है. Can you please say again what you were saying?
अनपेक्ष and सर्वारंभ परित्यागी both are intimately interlinked.
Yeah, obviously.
तो इसलिए वो
Yes, he
सर्वारंभ
who desires nothing and who has given up all initiative of action. Naturally, अगर आपके अंदर desires होंगी तो आप constantly being motivated by the, yeah, correct.
आरंभ is त्याग का मतलब आरंभ.
आप म्यूट हो गए हैं अरोड़ा जी.
What I'm saying is action will be continuous.
Yes.
But it will not have any motive or desire, personal desire.
Yes, it will not be done out of personal desire or personal motive.
Yes, and anapeksh is the same.
Exactly. अनपेक्षः, आप कुछ चाहते नहीं है, आप बस ये चाहते हैं कि जो भगवान चाहते हैं. बट इन सब चीजों में ना एक खतरा भी बहुत है, वही कि सबको पढ़ लिया, वो कर लिया, बट वो उस चक्कर में नाटक हो रहा है उस चीज. हम तो कुछ नहीं चाहते, चाहत से भरे हुए हैं, अरे हमें तो कुछ नहीं. अरे भैया, भरे पड़े हो आप डिजायर से. बी ऑनेस्ट विद योरसेल्फ. आई एम जस्ट सेइंग, आई एम नॉट पॉइंटिंग.
No, you are absolutely right. But
तो इसीलिए ना ये चैप्टर आते आते वो कर्म योगा, ज्ञान योगा का जो बेस और प्रिपरेशन है वो मैंडेटरी है. शिव बंधु ने तो यहां तक कहा है, द फर्स्ट 6 chapters of the Gita, he says this, and probably this is a good point to close this session, कि if the Gita were a living discourse and not a great written scripture, Krishna could have stopped at the 6th chapter and he could have said कि पहले इसमें जो बताया वो realize कर लो, बाकी की बात बाद में करेंगे. But because it is a great written scripture, it is not actually in that sense a record of a conversation. Whoever wrote the Gita was a great yogi and certainly received his inspiration from Krishna. These are the exact words of Sri Aurobindo, right? So there is a उस सारे बेस वगैरह के बिना all this can be very dangerous. But ठीक है, I mean, most of these things are part of our being. If we are misusing them, then obviously we will become aware that we should not do it. If we are already in that state where we are able to follow this, then उससे फिर तो बड़ी बात ही क्या है, it's wonderful then, right? So I think one thing we can do is just before closing, we'll just read these verses once in Sanskrit and then close with silence. Is that okay? Yeah, क्या करें? It's already time.
Please read. Please read.
Okay. Yeah, Dhaval bhai, maybe you just sing them. Okay. I'll show them
Okay.
on the screen and you please sing them.
Okay.
तो
No,
मैं
sir.
13 से शुरू कर रहा हूँ from the beginning.
हाँ जी,
यहाँ
हाँ
से
जी.
from here till the one we've read.
हाँ.
Please.
ओम अथ श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता ध्यानम सर्वोप I'll just
नहीं
go
नहीं,
by
just go straight to the verses. हाँ.
straight to the verses. Okay.
Yes, please. श्री
अद्वे
भगवान उवाच के साथ because
हाँ,
that needs
okay.
to be said.
श्री भगवान उवाच अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिर्यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैर्मुक्तो ह्यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्ष शुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारंभ परित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः.
We'll close with silence.